We're back. It's nice to have you here again, as it always is. You are
Nice to be here.
so superb. You're going to play with the L.A. Philharmonic.
That's right. I'm playing with them tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow I'm doing the Shostakovich Violin Concerto at Gennady Rostchesvinsky.
Without putting you on the spot, how would you rate the Los Angeles Philharmonic with other Philharmonic orchestras around in New York and Boston and so forth?
That's not difficult. Great orchestra.
Really?
Oh, yes. No, I always enjoyed playing with them, and we've been really playing for quite a few years together, and they've really grown in the last, like 5-6 years since we've been made to took over. It's been even longer.
I always enjoy it when we have an artist of your caliber on the show, because the musicians in the band are awed, knowing more about music than I do. But David and I were sitting here and we're saying, trying to imagine the practice and the dedication that anybody does who's a great artist has to spend with your instrument day after day after day.
I've spent so many hours in front of the TV practicing my instruments. You know?
In front of the TV.
You know how many Star Treks I've
Does that help sometimes to have something else?
Listen.
Does that help to have something going on?
Listen, Spock has helped me through many a difficult time. Unbelievable.
That's interesting.
No, sometimes my most incredible, my record practicing ever was, I think, 2 days without stop. I was in England and I was watching a cricket match.
Oh, well.
And I just watched the match and practiced. It was fabulous. It was enjoyable, and of course it was all in slow motion. Cricket is like slow motion baseball.
And when they play cricket in England, they don't carry just the highlights. What they call the test match. It goes on for 2 or 3 days, morning, afternoon, and they're still playing cricket.
It's marvelous, and there's, of course, you don't even have to hear the descriptions, because it's every half an hour he says, "Oh, good shot, good shot." But and then another half hour, nothing.
Nice,
and then you see the guy going, and by half an hour, that's great practice.
Quite good, quite good. Let me ask you something. When you appear on our show, which is not exactly Lincoln Center, we're a melange, a show of comedy and craziness and so forth. To the purists, like I've asked opera people the same thing. Do they say, well, you shouldn't be appearing on that kind of a show? It's not...
Well, I'll tell you, I've never really had anybody come to me and say that you shouldn't. As a matter of fact, every time some people come to my concerts, and I always take this as a compliment, because they come backstage and say, "Oh, I had to come in here because I saw you on the Johnny Carson show," So, and they haven't seen me anyplace else.
That's why we like to have artists.
Exactly. I feel that artists should be put, musicians do not necessarily have to be put in an all-music sort of program, because, sometimes they used to do it, the big companies used to give a grant, used to have an hour on prime time, but used to have it in the intermedia station. So meanwhile, all the major network, you had all your, great shows, and so people who, unless they were interested, they didn't watch. But if you put musicians on a show that a very kind of an audience watches, I think that's great.
I think Ed Sullivan was one of the first to realize the importance of that, because he had a mixture of a show and would bring an opera and a Bolshoi ballet and follow it with Joan Sutherland and then the Beatles the next week, and it gives a variety.
Yeah, absolutely.
What kind of audience? You get a great mix of audience from young people to...
No, you get all sorts of audience. You get college audiences, of course. You know about college audience, a great audience. They're marvelous. You know that somehow, when you play a college date, you know that everybody came there, not because he had to come, she had to come, but because they want to come, because they're really interested in music. And you get this kind of an audience. Of course, you get your sort of different sort of crowd that are mixed. But it's really, if you give to the audience, you get back. That's very important. Sometimes you get funny audiences, like in Scandinavia. You finish playing, like 5 minutes later, there's a slight, and this is, and the manager comes back, "Did you hear that great success you're having?" And there's nothing, absolutely nothing. And they go like that for half an hour, like that. And
they love it, but that's as far as they'll go.
Very successful. Very, very successful.
Intelligent, proper.
Yes, I enjoyed your playing awfully. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed. That's another
They can't tell you.
I can tell you how much I enjoyed your playing. So
Rather
don't
than
tell
saying,
me.
I really enjoyed it. I can't tell you.
No, I can't tell you.
We'll be right back.